You are live on YouTube.
Thank you. I'd like to pull together the Finance Committee for the March 3rd, 2022, 3 minutes after 1 p.m. We will begin with the roll by the clerk of the board. Amanda?
Mr. Leggett,
Here.
Mr. Thomas,
It's me. It's me.
Got it. Thank you. You're welcome.
Mr. Bruno, Mr. Merlino, Ms. Runyon, Mr. Diamond,
Here.
Mr. Driscoll.
Here.
Quorum is established.
We have a quorum. We will begin with a motion to approve minutes of prior committee meetings. Moved by Supervisor Driscoll and second by Supervisor Thomas. Any discussion? Then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Action item, request to transfer of funds as attached for committee approval. These are all under item number 1. They are about 4 pages. Motion to bring it to the floor. Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Diamond. And a second, Supervisor Driscoll. Thank you. Discussion. I do have a question. HH stands for, is that the
Harrell
Herring, so that's their funding sources. And these are just all transfers from what they have
Correct.
banked
Yeah,
into
internal
the
transfer.
purpose. Thank you. Yeah, Supervisor Diamond.
Oh, no, I got a question on the next one.
Oh, okay. Any discussion on item number 1? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? I hear no opposition. Number 1 carries. Number 2, request items to be discussed by the county administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item is the monthly journal reports, which are in your packet. If there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Hearing none.
Okay. The second item is, this is a request that was brought to me by our Public Affairs Director, Don Lehman, for a service that will archive our social media content. We, I believe earlier, it may have been end of last year or early this year, we received our first FOIL for content from our social media. And that FOIL also included, there was an element to that FOIL that dealt with comments on social media being deleted or whatnot. Because of the way Facebook and some of these other platforms are set up, you can't always, it doesn't necessarily maintain a record if you're the user of the page as to what was deleted, what was added later on. People constantly can comment on your postings, and it can be difficult to not only search through that to comply with FOIL, but also to maintain accurate records. Screenshots won't do it because they don't have metadata. They don't ever hold up in court if there's a lawsuit. So we believe that because we have a robust social media presence now, and these are public records, that it would be wise to invest a little bit of money each year in this service so that we can comply with our responsibilities under FOIL.
Like a motion to bring this to the floor. Supervisor Driscoll, and a second by Supervisor Diamond. Discussion. Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, thank you. How many, is this our first FOIL on the, on our social media?
I believe it is. To my recollection, it was.
So we get a FOIL and immediately we're going to jump to spending $4,500 on archiving this.
Right. That's the proposal.
And I pretty much can imagine what that FOIL was, if I remember correctly. So
Would it be cheaper if we just gave up Facebook?
It
well,
would.
it's
I don't
not
think our
Facebook.
residents would like that.
I would take keep Facebook and just get rid of media, but, like I said, it sometimes it just really amazes me is that people get so angry and upset, and then they want everything, and we have to protect ourselves because, we're the big kahunas there, and so that's $4,500 of the taxpayers' money that has to go out because somebody's got a beef because they didn't like what was said.
Yep.
And then supposedly it was changed. So, okay.
Supervisor Seaver?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While I appreciate your suggestion on deleting social media, I believe as chair of this committee, your opinion can be swaying to many of us here at this board and probably should be reserved unless you'd like someone to step in as chair for you. But that being said, I certainly remember the time that you and I started as new supervisors in 2014 and took a social media training. We've come a long way since then, so we can engage our public and meet them where they're at. What we're talking about here are strictly official government accounts. Our county attorney who stepped out, I'm sure, is happy to prepare a legal memo or to give an update down the road for this committee to talk clearly about what is a official social media account. Maybe it's Facebook, maybe it's Twitter, maybe it's Instagram or TikTok. I'm sure I'm going to say all the wrong things, but the bottom line here is if it's an official county page, like our Warren County, New York has been deemed to be, then it is subject to FOIL. There is a policy decision that the personnel committee could probably take up and talk about on whether or not comment should be allowed. The courts have ruled that it is completely illegal to be able to turn off those comments if that's something that the county decides to do. And in fact, many counties, I'm sure, Mr. Chairman, you've learned in the same trainings, have decided to do just that because of many of the different responses and FOIL related information. So I just want to be clear what we're talking about here, and it's all social media. There is a need to have this type of information retained for official accounts. And I think we need to be very careful about the fact that it is a great way to engage our public. And I am so excited to have a public information officer that engages really every single day. I wish we had a backup for him. I hope down the road we talk about expanding and servicing not only perhaps other department heads, but about also other municipalities that may be able to use services. So I think it is a very important topic, again, as it relates to official social media accounts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do see our public information officer on here. Do you have any comment on this?
Just that this is kind of the standard for government agencies now to have this sort of service. I mean, this company that we're proposing to contract with is used by Essex County, a number of other counties around New York, New York City, the U.S. Department of Justice. I mean, as the world changes here, this is something that protects us. It will save us, if we get a big FOIL request, it will save us countless hours of staff time digging through these accounts to make sure we have everything. And there's some other little perks of what this company does. I actually sent along some information on this company to the wrong committee yesterday. I sent it to personnel thinking it was part of the administration instead of finance. So that was my bad, but I can have a whole bunch of information to send along to anybody who has any questions.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And opposed? Hearing none. Call the question approved.
Thank you. We appreciate your support. Item C is the funding for that contract, $4,491. It was not anticipated that we would do this in the budget. We started looking at this early in the year, but it will be anticipated in future years and included in my budget. So the proposal is to transfer that amount out of contingency.
Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Thomas, second. Supervisor Driscoll, discussion. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item D is somewhat painful, but also expected. This is in relation to our property and casualty insurance renewal. If you recall, towards the end of last year, we approved a renewal package. The price tag on it was $1,070,000 all in. That compares to $865,156 from last year. So we did get hit with a fairly steep increase. The reason for that, and we're going back now, our insurance broker tried to shop our coverage out to different carriers and had a potential package lined up that would not have been this expensive. But the problem that we ran into was the willingness of essentially every carrier they do business with to cover SML liability, sexual misconduct liability. And that's because the New York State changed the statute of limitations on the Child Victim Act cases. So this is a problem industry-wide in the insurance industry. The current carrier, Zurich, did agree to continue that coverage. Coverage is very important to us because of the tremendous liability we could have in one of these cases. So that's why we kind of got stuck with the increase here. We did budget for a certain increase. We did not anticipate an increase of this magnitude. So the 95,118 is the amount that we need appropriated into the budget to fix up the insurance accounts so that we can pay those bills. And I would propose that it come from fund balance appropriation. It would be a large amount to take from contingency.
Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Thomas, second. Supervisor Driscoll, discussion.
Is there,
Yes, please. Go ahead.
is there any effort to get the state to reverse their legislation?
That's a good question. That may be an issue that NISAC has taken up. I'll check the NISAC legislative priorities, and if it's not in there, I'll suggest that they do it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed say nay.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Yep.
The final request, this comes from our mental health office, the Office of Community Service. There was a resolution passed earlier this year for their lease renewal. There was a typo in the resolution request. Essentially, the monthly number was wrong. If you flip through in your agenda packet, I have copied the resolution. If you look down at the monthly figure, Rob had $2,573.22. If you multiply that by 12 months, it comes out to $30,878. You know, it's obviously the number that's close to what he had for the annual amount above. So the main problem was the monthly amount. The monthly amount should have been 2,574 times 12, 30,888. So that's the request, just to amend that resolution.
Moved by Supervisor Thomas. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Supervisor Diamond. Any discussion on this correction? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those say nay. None. Motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Administrator Moore. Number 3, request items to be discussed by the county treasurer, Mike Swan. Treasurer, you have the floor.
Good afternoon,
Introduce.
everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item is to delete the back taxes on Johnsburg parcel 30-2-68 in the amount of $724.22. This is a little sliver of a piece of property that was alongside a road in the town of Johnsburg. Lexi tried to sell it several times at auction, never got sold. The town of Johnsburg was nice enough to buy it from the county, and we need to clear the books.
Okay. Sure. Can we do A and B together?
Sure can.
Thank you. Introduce B, please.
B is a mobile home in Queensbury that was in a mobile home park, and due to New York State real property tax law, if a mobile home is in a park where they're renting space to be there, they can still apply for and get property tax exemptions. That's what happened here. This person got an exemption, but they never paid their taxes for 3 years. Now the trailer is gone, so we have no way to collect the money. So we need to clear our books of this amount, $2,373.97.
Thank you. Motion to bring items 3A and B to the floor.
Put the motion forward.
Thank you Supervisor Diamond. A second. Supervisor Thomas. Thank you. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of 3A and B, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, say nay. None. Motion carries. Thank you.
And just the other thing that I passed out, this little graph, and it's just an informational thing. And if anybody has any questions, they can talk later about it. But the three things down at the bottom that are kind of important is the amount of money that the state has taken out of our sales tax portion. An interesting figure, although I guess in the new budget that the governor proposed, the AIM money will not be taken out, but we'll wait to see whether that actually happens or not. And the other thing is just to see how well we meaning our budget officers in the past have budgeted the amount of money that we're anticipating from sales tax and how much we have actually collected. And if you'll see, it's been pretty close, or the collections have been over budget, which is why we have such a good sized fund balance.
Thank you. Thank you. And I sent out to the Finance Committee and a few others yesterday an article from the Gazette from Schenectady. I got picked up from the NISAC County in the News there. Internet sales has really boosted everybody through the years. Doing well with that. Where it will go, who knows? Next, referral from the County Facilities Committee. Airport, request to establish capital project number H414, Airport Runway 1-19 remarking program in the amount of $300,000. Motion to bring this to the floor. Supervisor Thomas, second Supervisor Diamond. Thank you. Any discussion on this? I think anybody that was in the committee was familiar with this. On our pages here, we say that the local match is 15,000. The rest is covered by FAA and New York State DOT. Supervisor Swan, Treasurer Swan.
I think.
Oh my gosh, thank you, thank you. Yes, Superintendent Hajos.
Afternoon, everyone. It is exactly that. We're just establishing a capital project, but I received an email this morning from the treasurer's office. They were concerned with us establishing this capital project before we had the grant funding. So, and I'm not sure if Mike is opposed to this or not. So I would prefer that we establish the capital project based on a pending grant award, which we've been working with FAA the last 2 years. We're 99.9% sure that we're going to get this award, but I would only establish the capital project with our local match amount and nothing more. If that's agreed to.
And just for clarification on their Superintendent Hajos, with just establishing the project just to get something on the books, because that is what we have control of, but eventually this will need to be amended then to be the full amount.
That is correct. I was just trying to do this to be efficient. As I said, we already know, based on conversations with FAA, that we will receive this funding. So as opposed to coming back later to do this, I thought we would do it now, but with discussions with Rob, and I see Mike's at the podium, if we can just establish it with the local match, then I guess I don't see any issues with that.
Okay, I'll look over here to County Treasurer for your comments on that idea.
The concern we had is it has not been awarded yet. The grant has not been awarded yet. Usually we do not establish these until after at least we get word that it has been awarded. I don't have a problem if we want to establish it now with the understanding that we're not going to fund it until we get the agreement from the FAA that we have actually received the grant.
And you are able to establish without funding?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the floor?
Yes, you do. Mr. Thomas.
Okay,
But can it be amended to the 15,000 instead of the 300?
Mhm. Okay, and should,
Is that the correct amount, Kevin?
I believe that is the local match. I don't have it right in front of me, but I thought that's what it said, was the
Yep.
15,000. Yep.
upon those recommendations, is the motioner and the seconder to the motion amenable to that?
Yes.
I agree.
Okay. The number 4 is amended to read to the amount of 15,000. That is the amount of our local match to establish the capital project. We're all clear on this. I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed? Hearing none. Item number 4 passes. On to number 5, referrals from Criminal Justice Public Safety Committee. Office of Emergency Services request to establish capital project A413 Hazard Mitigation Grant Program in the amount of $120,000. Motion to bring this to the floor. Thank you Supervisor Thomas, and second by Supervisor Diamond. Thank you. So 5A. Anybody to speak on this? Has this one been awarded?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Hogan?
Are the in-kind contributions staff time? What are they?
Yes.
Thank you.
What was, I thought you
Are-
said baptized. What in-kind contributions are what?
Are the in-kind contributions staff time?
Oh, staff time. Thank you. Yes. Okay. We have a motion and a second. We have discussion. Any further comments? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor of 5A, say aye.
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 And opposed, say nay. Motion carries. 5B from Public Defender. Request to amend the Warren County budget in the amount of $155,115 to add funds from the newly executed Office of Indigent Legal Services Contract C80005 to distribution number 8 to the Public Defender's budget. Motion to bring it to the floor, please. Supervisor Driscoll, and Supervisor Thomas on a second. Discussion. Who would like to speak to this?
I can speak to this. This is, I believe this is the distribution funding. It's the latest round, so we need to just amend the expenses and the revenues. This is to accomplish the objectives that the state sets forward for public defenders.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussions on item 5B? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. C has been removed. We will now go to sheriff request. D, request to amend Warren County budget in the amount of $1,178 to transfer unused funds remaining in the Sheriff's Law Enforcement fiscal year 19 State Law Enforcement Terrorism Prevention Program Grant Fund from fiscal year 2021 to 2022. We also have a similar request under E as well. Request to amend the Warren County budget in the amount of $4,689.17 to move the unused funds remaining from the Sheriff's Law Enforcement fiscal year 20 State Land Home Security Program grant from fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Motion brings D and E to the floor.
Yes.
Supervisor Driscoll, thank you. Second. Supervisor Thomas, discussion. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor of 5D and E say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. On to 5F, request to amend Warren County budget to reflect appropriate revenues and expenses for the second half of the school resource officers contract. Supervisor Driscoll on the first and the second by Supervisor Runyon, you good with seconding?
Yes.
Thank you. Give these guys a break in the room here. They've been working hard on these first and seconds, I tell you. Thank you. Discussion. And if I'm correct, it's because the school years do not coincide with our county fiscal year that we do these in two different resolutions, one half and then second half. That's correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. Are we paying resource officers in different schools, different amounts?
Not usually. It might go by the number of them, by the looks of it. So, for example, Lake George has 2 officers, North Warren has 1 officer.
What's going on with Hadley Luzerne?
Might be on the timing of it. It might be shared with Luzerne.
But we don't know.
I mean, with Hadley.
But we don't know.
Actually, it's a little bit higher.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, based on the school budget.
Okay. It could be that they are paying them more and that we might be getting reimbursed from Hadley Luzerne.
But we're going to pass this without knowing that?
Yes. Yeah.
It could be
You know,
that-
yes, go ahead, Supervisor
Thank
Driscoll.
you. It could be that the going rate in Saratoga County is higher than the rate in Warren County. Maybe we could investigate that to see if Saratoga is paying more towards theirs. Just an idea. I know we've talked about it, but not for quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been done by the school board, actually. They would be the ones in charge and Ms. Lorenzo.
Yeah, so the school board would have approved these payments. So what you'll see in front of you, it's both an appropriation for that dollar amount and from the school board, it would have been approved the reimbursement amount. So it should cost the county no dollars for these positions as confirmed by the 0 just indicated by our treasurer Swan. So if a board, they started out at the same dollar amount, that is true. But over time, as schools have approached the sheriff, they've approached them with, what if we say we can pay them this dollar amount? So they have, as long as they're paying for their school resource officers and all the costs are being covered, then the sheriff has put those figures forward.
Thank you, Tammy. But that was why my question was framed, are we paying them different rates? Not why are we paying them different rates?
Right, we are, yes.
Thank you. And again, to affirm what was just said, these are reimbursed by the schools for us. So we have a motion and a second. Call a question for item 5F. All those in favor, Supervisor Sieber.
Thank you. I'm sure you were getting to discussion. I appreciate being able to talk on this
Oh.
since I'm not a member of your committee.
Okay.
On item 5F, that blackout, I assume that's not a redaction. Is that just removing some items? I doubt we'd be voting on something redacted.
They had nothing to do with this motion. Yeah, I'll have the clerk explain.
Thank you.
The treasurer's office advised us that they should be taken off. They were all for the town, for the Queensbury School District. Those were all handled through a budget. They're already done. So they didn't need to be on this for the second half. They were handled through the budget process. So Rob Lynch asked me to remove them all because they don't need to be amended. The budget's already been amended for them. So all of those numbers there at the bottom, the one at the bottom was the number he had in for Queensbury School District for the revenue code, and then the appropriation is the larger black box on the top. We can't amend the budget twice. This has already been taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Yes, Supervisor Hogan.
Sorry, I don't mean to hold everybody up. I know it's getting late, but why is Queensbury handled differently from the rest of them?
They went to a full-time employee, so it was handled through the budget process.
They went to full-time employees, so they're handled through the budget process. So how does that work?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Explanation.
Yeah, Administrator Moore?
Because it's a full-time employee whose salary is adopted, their entire salary is adopted in as part of the compensation schedule, tracks back to the 110 object code. You include the entire revenue that balances that person out. Otherwise, you're raising taxes for something that we're not going to need tax dollars for.
So it has with it the full appropriation and the revenue line that goes along with it. So the net zero on all of that
That's right.
together.
Yeah.
So. Sound good? Going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion 45F carries. On to 6, was not stapled in here. You just received it on your desk here. This is a referral from Economic Growth and Development, Planning and Community Development. Request for the appropriation of $200,000 to fund the development of a comprehensive plan for Warren County. And everybody at the tables have these sheets and it's posted onto the website.
Yep.
Yeah, so it is on the website. So Deb, Supervisor Runyon, if you need to see it, it's through your minutes and agendas website page. But okay, good, thanks. We will,
Mr. Chairman, it's Mike.
yes, yes.
Well, if you don't
Supervisor.
mind, I'll give a quick introduction. You know, it's come to our understanding that the.
Supervisor
sorry.
Wild, like to have a motion, bring it to the floor first, please.
Of course.
Thank you. Supervisor Driscoll, is there a second? Supervisor Thomas, thank you. Okay, discussion. Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's come to my attention and others that the county does not have a comprehensive plan. And there's many reasons why we should. And some of it has to do with our economics, our economy in the county, as well as the fact that there's other planning activities happening, such as a housing study that's being helped through by the EDC. And Ethan is on board. I believe he's still on. There's a 4-page presentation. Without objection, I'd like Ethan, if he doesn't mind, to go through this. Maybe you can take 2 or 3 minutes to quickly go through what the plans are, what the benefits would be, and see if we can get approval from this committee to move forward with this. I think it's very important. So without objection, I'd like to have Ethan give us a quick overview.
Thank you, Supervisor Wild, and you are the chairman of the committee that this came out of. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. We'll recognize Ethan Gaddy from Warren County Planning. Ethan, you have the floor.
Thank you. Apologies for some of the IT difficulty. I'm working from home today with a sick kid, but it looks like I've got my my PowerPoint up and working here. So yeah, really quickly, as Supervisor Wild mentioned, Warren County does not have a comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan is a guiding policy document for a community. It establishes a vision of where we want to be over the next 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. To date, we don't have that. So we get a vision for where we want to be. We look at, we establish goals, how we get there, and then strategies. Following on those strategies are, implementation strategies. Who do we have to talk to? What departments do we have to use? What sort of funds do we allocate for this? And involves the public. Developing a comprehensive plan requires a lot of public engagement, reaching out in the community, reaching out to different department heads, elected officials, residents who would otherwise be not informed of what's going on in the county. And why do we need it? Supervisor Weil alluded to this. It allows the Board of Supervisors and other policymakers to understand the big picture. Oftentimes you look at this on a month-to-month basis or even just a year-to-year basis on the budgeting process. But, the comprehensive plan is going to be, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It also establishes a shared vision for the future. So as elected officials come and go, we at least have this touchstone where it says, hey, this is where we want to be. And it lets us rally around some of these ideas. It also creates a framework for decision-making. When it comes to a very contentious decision or we're scratching our heads about some new situation, we can say, how does this align with what we talked about from the research that we did, from the stakeholders that we talked to? Does it align with that? Yes or no? Again, it does bring the public to involvement with county government in a way they've probably never been before. I think we've seen the value in that from some of the public surveys from the ARPA process. We heard from over 1,000 residents, and we continue to hear from stakeholders, and we're getting great ideas from that. This would be another way to do that. It increases the chance of us getting more grant funding. I've developed a number of comprehensive plans in my past career, and we've gotten grant money for the county for other projects. If you have an established plan that says, hey, these are projects that we want to work on, these are important to us, we've considered them, and you apply for funding to implement them, you're going to have a favorable position. And again, it's enhancing the quality of life, protecting community character, and it's also going to help us make strategic investments, whether it's in infrastructure, public services. We'll be making these investments with an eye towards the big picture. Those are just a few of the reasons. You ask a planner if they need a plan. Yes, we do. For the basic steps, it's, you kick off a project, do a lot of data analysis, then you work with the community, you start, establishing stakeholder groups. You work through that. It's an iterative process where you continually are reflecting back on the information that you first received, and then you're adding to that. You continue to draft the plan, and then you bring the plan in front of the Board of Supervisors, the public, revise it, and then finally adopt it. We anticipate that this project could take anywhere from 12 to 24 months. This is depending on if the money is indeed allocated. We'd like to be very deliberate about developing a scope of work and requests for proposals. Warren County, we have a lot of information about the county. Over the past few years, we've engaged different stakeholders in ways that we haven't before as we faced the pandemic. So we do have an idea of how Warren County is unique from some areas. So we'd like to be very deliberate about crafting that scope of work, working with county staff, supervisors, departments, and other stakeholders to figure out what exactly it is that we want before we go put this out to bid for a consultant contract. Once we do reach out and find a consultant, we could form an advisory committee, and this advisory committee would be elected officials and other people. They're going to oversee the process, and then it'll be plan development. And this could take, again, 12 to 24 months, depending on the level of public engagement. And the other element here to this plan to make this truly successful, it's not on this presentation, but just speaking to you now, is that when we put this plan together, it's going to be really important that we include benchmarking. And this just means that we have some sort of performance metrics built into the plan. So as we go and talk about whether it's transportation, housing, environmental quality, in the plan, we can put in something like, and this is just for example, let's just say we were focused very much on housing, right? Oh, how many units of attainable housing do we want over the next 5 years? So we could say in the drafting of the comp plan, let's do 35 units. This is just random number. At the end of 5 years, we can reflect back and say, hey, did we get these 35 units? As a county, did we hit that goal? And if we didn't hit it, it gives us an opportunity to course correct, evaluate the policies we've been pursuing, evaluate the programs that we've been looking at. Maybe we can figure out how our departments are working. So if we build in the benchmarking, and that's just one example, it could be percentage of parkland per resident. It could be, percentage of children going on to higher education in the county. So we can build in all these metrics into the plan. So this initial $200,000 investment in the planning process is not just sort of, put on a shelf and forgotten about. So if we have routine updates, we have clear goals in this, it could be a valuable document for the county for years to come. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what we're asking for.
Thank you, Ethan. Appreciate that. Further discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I think one of the key points behind this also is the fact that we don't want to duplicate any efforts that are currently underway. I believe the town of Queensbury is doing an additional update to their plan. I mentioned the housing study earlier. So it's really taking a look at what we already have and what we can gain from other towns and other agencies that are doing work like this, and just wrap it into a big overall plan for the county. And again, thank you, Ethan, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Wild, for presenting that this is going to be a more holistic approach for the county. Supervisor Driscoll, I know you have
Thank
to
you.
leave, so I want
I'm
to be
going to hang around
respectful.
till 2. So thank you for your, for calling on me. From the, working in the private sector for all these years, for not-for-profits, it was part of our requirement if we received any type of federal or state monies or a combination of those in order to do this. And needs assessment was certainly a big part of it. I'm a bit surprised that it hasn't been required. I think a real poignant point that Ethan made was that it, in my experience, it puts you in a better competitive position when you're looking to compete for federal or state dollars with other regions. If you have this report and if you have the data that substantiates that, it really does put you in a higher position, I believe, in order to go after those and secure those big dollar grants and awards. Thanks.
May have payback. Thank you. Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This $200,000 that's already appropriated into the budget,
No, it's not. Correct.
where would the money come from?
That is a good question. I'm going to refer to Ethan. Ethan? Are there,
It's my understanding that we would be requesting this money from the general fund.
and there are grants out there to help with comprehensive plans. I know on a local level, there was something recently. Is this something that we could go for some grant funding to help with?
Yeah, if I could. There's certainly the option to pursue grant funding to develop a comprehensive plan. One of the nice parts as we've thought about doing a comprehensive plan from the general fund is that we would not be tied to the contractual requirements of New York State. We would have the flexibility to design a scope of work, a request for proposals that really reflects Warren County's needs. We would be able to provide oversight for it. You know, our department does have the expertise to do it. So yeah, there are consolidated funding application opportunities to do this. One of the downsides of doing that is, so right now it's, was it March? Consolidated funding applications will be available sometime this spring. I anticipate that we'd put in the application by the end of July. We wouldn't hear from the state until about December whether or not the application was successful. And then the period of time to get the contract set up with the state would put us sometime into the summer of 2023. So the time frame for it would be pushed out pretty far if we were just to rely upon grant funding. But we certainly could do it. The other alternative is allocating ARPA funding for this. But it, from the general fund, $200,000. If just for a point of reference on, a recent grant we were awarded for aquatic invasive species management in the Scroon Lake watershed. We got $250,000 from the state in grant funding because we did have good plans going into the grant application process. So I do think that investing from the general fund so we could do the plan more expeditiously and we'd have the flexibility to do it how we wanted to do it would be worthwhile in the long run. We could certainly reap the benefits in grant funding.
Thank you. Supervisor Hogan, then Supervisor Sieber.
Thank you. I'm not going to pretend that a long overdue comprehensive plan is an emergency and that we can't wait for grant funding. But typically this kind of grant would be a 20% match at the most. So we're saving $40,000 and waiting over a year and a half to implement this. I also don't feel it's appropriate for ARPA because we've known for a very long time that we need to do a comprehensive plan. In the meantime, I believe we're sitting on how much extra in the general fund? Couple bucks. I don't think it would be unseemly or inappropriate to designate 50 cents out of that couple bucks to something like this project, which will help guide our decision-making for years. down the road.
Thank you. Supervisor Seaver, then Supervisor Diamond. You didn't have your hand up, did you?
No, I
No,
didn't.
okay. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I again want to highlight the efforts, the tireless efforts of then Chairwoman Andrea Hogan last year, all throughout 2021, not only attending training, but looking and speaking with Ethan on multiple occasions, recognizing we didn't have a comprehensive plan or a strategic plan, or even just a basic mission statement that we all tried to come together with and have that pass, which I don't think should wait for this process. I think there is a way to have a temporary mission statement that we can all kind of agree on moving forward as a board of supervisors, and how I know that our county administrator worked on that last year. So I'm hopeful we're going to hear that dialogue perhaps in government ops. But this did come up as a result of the discussions with ARPA. It's a great example of that committee referring this over here. And, you know, when I think about it, it's been 14 or 15 months now of talking about this and that we're here discussing it compared to never having one. I think we're making huge progress. And I just want to applaud the efforts of this committee here. I hope you'll invest general fund dollars into such an important initiative. Thank you.
thank you. Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to hear more from Ethan on how they're going to interact with communities such as the city of Glens Falls. It's done a comprehensive plan, the town of Queensbury. How are we going to sit down and partner up with them and include how that's going to occur into this master plan that we're developing for our entire Warren County? I'd like to hear more details about that.
That's a great question. And we're certainly going to have to design the scope of work for the project in such a way that it incorporates all the municipalities. Right now, the Board of Supervisors is one thing, but developing a comprehensive plan and reaching out into the community directly to municipal governments like the city of Glens Falls, town of Queensbury. I mean, I would imagine that we're going to reach out to each individual municipality. We're going to evaluate their existing comprehensive plans. We're going to sit down, talk to them about, hey, what are your priorities? What are your needs? What opportunities? What challenges do you see? And we'll have formal sit-down conversations, multiple conversations with each municipality in order to make this this comprehensive plan work. It would be great. I think it would be a really good opportunity to bring the city of Glens Falls deeper into the conversation of the county as a whole. But I mean, it's sort of a waffly response, but it will require intensive engagement with each municipality.
And the intent is to accomplish this within 24 months?
Yeah, I think 24 months would be a reasonable amount of time. And that will be one of the, I mean, depending if we have another pandemic or something, or this pandemic continues indefinitely, it's like the public engagement will be a really big part of this. And because we are such a large geography, as opposed to just like a city, a town, or village, that will take a bit of energy to do. And that's why we're going to try to, we're going to hire a qualified consultant to do this. I mean, we can direct the process in-house, but in reality, we need to find a firm with a large enough staff and manpower to do this.
Are we including in the advisory committee members of every community that's going to sit in on this?
That's to be determined. I mean, how many municipalities do we have now? We've got, I should know this off the top of my head. It's
my point, Ethan, is that some of these communities such as Glens Falls and Queensbury have already adopted a comprehensive master plans. They should be stakeholders sitting in as an advisory member of the committee.
Yeah, I don't think that we could have a comprehensive plan committee without representation from our largest municipalities and really all of our municipalities. Whether or not each municipality is on the the core advisory committee is up for debate. It depends how big of a committee you want to have. We could do a 20-person committee that could get pretty unwieldy, or we could have a core advisory committee of 8, who knows how many people. That is a little bit faster and lighter, but each municipality would be engaged as a stakeholder. There'd be, deliberate outreach to make sure that we're hearing from each community. I mean, the whole point of having this comprehensive plan is how do we identify some of the shared goals between all of our communities? So we simply won't be able to do a comprehensive plan without reaching out to each municipality and engaging them in the entire process.
Have we considered approaching The EDC organization, after all, we do fund them for $300,000 in this plan that once is established, that might be a tool by EDC to be used for growth in the Warren County area.
I haven't approached the EDC
Have them
about
start
this.
up on the cost of the plan.
No, I haven't approached the EDC about the cost of the plan, to be honest. I know we fund a lot of what the EDC does. It will be a useful document for them. I mean, when it comes to business attraction and retention, it's really important for any business that's coming to an area or considering an area to understand, hey, what is this? What is the vision for this area? Are we the right fit for this place? What are their priorities? Do we align with those? So it will be a useful tool for economic development for sure. But I know I have not approached the EDC about funding.
Okay. My last question is that I'd like to offer up a suggestion to the advisory committee that you have the leaders of those communities that are within Warren County. And I would suggest that we include the mayor of the city of Glens Falls, along with Queensbury's town supervisor and every town supervisor, to sit down at the table as part of the advisory committee to develop this plan for everybody within the community.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. I think we should definitely engage the leadership of Glens Falls as well.
And Stony Creek, and Warrensburg, Chester, Andrea Hogan.
Don't worry, Jack.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's going to take everyone. It really will, or else it'll be no good. I mean, we're not going to have a successful comprehensive plan unless we have buy-in from all of our municipalities. So not everyone has to agree fully on everything in the comprehensive plan, but if we reach a general consensus, that's a huge victory. And to date, we don't really have any documents that show that.
That's
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you for all those questions, Supervisor Diamond. Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I can just reiterate as Chair of Economic Growth and Development, I consider it a prerequisite to get all these different organizations involved. And the reason that I want to do that is because it helps us with buy-in and it might help us get it done a little bit quicker. I mentioned it prior, but there's no way that we're going to be efficient if we're redoing the Glens Falls master plan or the Queensbury master plan. We need to build upon and leverage those. So I'd just like to implore to this committee to consider this an investment in the future. It's not going to provide us with immediate results because it's going to take some time, but I'm hoping to get some preliminary actions that we might be able to get out of this within the first year that may not be part of the total plan, or may not be the whole plan, but would be a part of that plan as we move forward to help guide some of the actions we take in the near term. So I'm just imploring for support of this committee and for the full board when it gets there. So thank you. I'll be quiet.
Thank you. Any other committee members? Any other non-committee members? Put this into context. The town of Chester in 1970 adopted a comprehensive master plan. 1970, 52 years ago. The town of Chester has had a comprehensive master plan with a budget and a breadth of much less than the county of Warren. I think I have participated in the development of a comprehensive master plan for another county. It's quite similar in demographics to this county. And it's, I'm in full support of it. Finding the money for it though, $200,000. Can we pull this out of, would it be unassigned fund balance? Yes. Yep. So 50 cents. How much, Andrea, were you saying we need? Yeah. So on number 6 here, general funding, 200,000, funding from unassigned fund balance. We'll put that in there. Ethan, $200,000 was just ballpark figure. It could come in at 120 or something like that, correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it necessarily a ballpark figure since we are starting from scratch. But yeah, $200,000. Wayne Lamoth, the director of our department, did survey the county planner listserv for New York State. And that was that from responses from about 13 or so different counties. That was a reasonable number.
Okay. Good. And I would imagine Warren County Planning would be involved in this process directly.
Yes, yeah, we'll be providing oversight for this.
Thank you. There's no further discussion on this. I'd like to call the question. Are we good to call the question on this? Okay. To allocation of funds to develop a comprehensive plan for Warren County. Coming from general fund, unassigned fund balance, $200,000.
Could I amend that resolution, Mr. Chairman? Not to exceed $200,000.
Not to exceed. Fair enough. Not to exceed. We're good with that? Okay,
Is there a second to amend that?
Yeah,
Yep.
I'll second.
okay. Call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Good project in front of us. And I know our planning department is up for it. Thank you. On to number 7, referrals from environmental concerns, real property tax service. Property tax services. Here we have A and B. The first is request to appropriate funds in the amount of $77,900 from the environmental testing reserve to real property tax service budget to fund the cost of demo and asbestos abatement services for a town of Johnsburg tax map parcel 133.8-1-27. And like to have a motion to bring this to the floor for discussion. Supervisor Diamond and a second by Supervisor Driscoll. I'll recognize Real Property Tax Service Director Delury. You have the floor.
We need to move out of the environmental testing reserve fund in order to put it into my contract code 470 to have the money to be able to pay for this down the road. This is from a bid. So they were the lowest bid. So we just need to move the funds to be able to have them when the time comes to be able to pay.
Okay, thank you. Discussion. And
Yeah, please get that building out of my town.
so, good. Mr. Lurie, when you had, when it was before the committee, was there was there variance needed or something for this to really happen? Are we good with?
That variance isn't going to be our responsibility. It would be the responsibility if he chooses to apply for a variance. If they do, then they have to submit it to us for approval. So we would run it through Atlantic Testing Laboratories to have them review it to help us out. So otherwise, it all depends on if that's the way he wants to proceed is with a variance. It's not, mandated that there's a variance.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Thomas?
So we don't anticipate any change over?
No, I am not going to say that because I don't know what's in the walls of the building. I don't know what'll happen once they start tearing it down. There very well could be change orders.
Oh, the other 3 bids, that's why.
There's a big difference.
Was, well, the 3 of them were kind of in the same neighborhood, but they were twice as much.
Correct. Yep.
You know,
I've spoken with him. He seems willing to move forward with what he has proposed. It all depends on, what happens as to how the building comes down and how it's allowed to be hauled out of there. He does have something in mind. I didn't reach out to all the other bidders to see how they wanted to tear the building down. But this is the way he's proposing.
Supervisor McCown?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say is, when we talked about it earlier, it was really the way he wanted to employ the building. He wanted to collapse it. Sounded like he wanted to make it all fall into one
No.
pile and take it out there instead of pulling it out by pieces. So that was what the variance was for. I know we're used to variances for changing properties
Yeah.
and what you want to do there, but this is a variance in how to tear it down. So
Following up
The-
on a discussion from, that I overheard during DPW Airport, where it was change orders coming in. This board is very sensitive to the fact that, about issuing a contract for one amount,
Mhm.
but then having to amend that at a later date for
Well, if
change
there's-
orders.
If there's unforeseen circumstances, I mean, we can't prevent a change order for something like that. And at this point, I truly don't know what's inside those block walls. If there could be, some type of contamination inside of there. We don't truly know what's in there, and we won't know until the demolition process starts. We had the testing done. We had ATL go in and test, and they gave us a report. They gave us a plan. So all that information is there. There could be unforeseen circumstances that happen that could cause a change order.
Is there, and again, pulling off, thank you Supervisor Driscoll. Pulling off from the discussion from earlier committee meetings about change orders, are there ways to limit the amount of a change order within the contract that goes out? Has there been any contract offered or for review to this business right now that has put in the lowest bid? Or do we get to form that contract?
I think that the contract will come out of the county attorney's office.
Sorry, that's me going off over there. I'm sorry.
Okay.
This contract was bid, right? There was bids that went out.
There was.
So whatever the bid documents state is what the contract is going to represent, and they're going to be part of the contract. So the county can't add on some other condition that wasn't in the bid documents that were bidded on, which this company was the low bidder for.
And vice versa. A company cannot charge for extra for what they.
Correct.
bid.
But they can, if there's unforeseen circumstances, they can put in a change order, as with any.
If the scope of work is outside of what was in the bid documents, then that would be the basis for a change order
Yeah.
to, the process of a change order to start.
Okay. Had Supervisor Hogan and then Supervisor McGowan. Okay, thank you. Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you. We had quite a few for the Mullion Building. I mean, due to certain circumstances, and like they had to come and, ask for more. So it's all part of the process. So.
Yeah. Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can support this appropriation specifically because there's an unknown there that we don't know. We couldn't build it into the cost, but as Supervisor from Queensbury said, if there is something that does changes that based on this proposal, then, the alternative is to do nothing. I don't think that's the answer either. We need to get the building torn down, so I can live with this proposal.
Okay, Supervisor Thomas.
Is there any benefit to delaying this for a month?
I wouldn't see what the benefit would be. We usually have to go with the low bidder, and they only hold their bid for 45 days. If we hold it off for another month, then we're going to probably have to rebid it. I could always have Julie Butler, we could reach out to her and have her chime in, but that's what she told me, is that if we were to table this for a month, we would end up losing our low bidder, and we would have to more than likely rebid.
Supervisor Hogan.
Aside from having to rebid it, Lexi's done a tremendous amount of work on this property already. It is not insubstantial every time she has to travel to Johnsburg to deal with this. That's, quite a ways. But also, Lexi, we are working with the state.
Mhm.
Are we jeopardizing our partnership with them in any way by delaying? I know that they are ready to go,
Right.
and I would like to see us take full advantage of what they're offering.
Yeah, because at this point, we are going to pay for the demolition of the building. But we're not going to be out any more money to New York State other than the $15,000 that we already paid them when we were in there doing the initial process of the cleanup. So that is in our agreement that we already have with New York State, that they are not going to charge us more money. But we also, I believe in that same agreement, there is a schedule, that after, getting the bids, you have like 45 days to award, I think it says. So, I probably truly would affect what is set in place already with New York State.
Supervisor Thomas.
So New York State is part of this.
They have been all along.
I know they've been part, but are they part of this bid process or?
No, they are not, because it's our responsibility to get the building tore down. We're tearing the building down and we're removing the slab, but we are not digging into the dirt. We're not taking any dirt. That's all going to be them. So there, I believe, is still a tank under that building that they used to dump their dirty materials into. New York State will be taking that out of the ground. There's also 2 hydraulic cylinders that are built into the floor that were for an old lift. New York State will also be responsible for taking those away because they don't want the ground disturbed. They want absolutely no dirt to go out of there by the contractor.
Any further discussion? Supervisor McGowan.
That's actually a good point, because a lot of our extras at the Mullion Building were the removal of more materials, and especially the ground. So I feel pretty confident that this will be pretty good. So I'm happy, even though I don't sit on this committee, but seeing it at the full board is moving along.
Okay. No further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor of 7A for the 77,900, moving it from our reserve fund to the real property tax budget line item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. B, motion bring 7B to the floor. Request for transfer of funds from contingent account to cover the cost of filing fees associated with the transfer of town Queensbury tax map number 309, so on. So thank you.
Motion forward.
Supervisor Diamond, and a second by Supervisor Runyon. Thank you. Discussion, Director Lurie.
This is a piece of property in the town of Queensbury. It's a little sliver. It may start out as like 4 feet and maybe go a width of like 10 feet. And it's like 100 feet long. It's between 2 pieces of property, and the wall of one of the neighboring properties sits on this piece. So we need to transfer title. I've had lots of conversations with our county attorney about this piece of property. So we're hoping, this was actually talked about maybe a year ago or 2 in my committee meetings. We've tried to just offer it to the people and get them to pay recording fees. That never happened. They would not respond. We've even offered it to them for free. They would not respond. So we really feel that this is the best way to move forward, is to do the deed. We just need to pay the recording fees. And this money is only for the New York State recording fees. The county, can waive the county fees.
And we're looking at $260 on this resolution. Any further discussion on this request? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman?
Yes, Supervisor McGowan.
I know we just voted on it, but something just popped up to me.
Uh-oh.
If we make this, do the transaction, and it's only $260, it's not, it's more or less the principal that, couldn't we add that onto their tax bill?
No.
No?
No, we own the property.
All right, okay, no, carry on.
Okay.
We're giving them something.
That's right.
Nothing.
It's, we're also clearing up a whole map as well. So
And I hope I don't create a conversation, but we're really just removing a potential liability. It does absolutely no good for the county to own one wall of a gentleman's garage. So, and through an anomaly of foreclosure, we're stuck with this sliver of land.
Number 8, referrals from the Health Services Committee. 8A, request to amend the county budget in the amount of $41,250 to allow for pass-through of a one-time 100% state aid funding from New York State Office of Addiction Services and supports to 820 River Street, Inc. for provision of jail-based addiction transition release services. Also on B here, request to amend the Warren County budget in the amount of $20,000 to allow for a pass-through of a one-time 100% state aid funding from the New York State Office of Addiction Services and supports to Addictions Care Center of Albany for provision of residential addiction treatment services. I'd like to have both A and B brought to the floor. Who can do that? Supervisor Thomas, thank you. Supervisor Runyon on the second. Anybody to speak to this motion? Pass-throughs. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? 8A and B pass. Public Health on 8C, request to amend county budget in the amount of $7,497 to reflect a total additional allocation for the ELC COVID enhanced detection contract. And this is from COVID comp care. So motion to bring it to the floor. Thank you, Supervisor Diamond, Supervisor Thomas on the second. I'd like to recognize Ms. Delorent. I can't even speak.
That's fine.
anymore.
It's late in the day.
dealing, so.
This is just a
Thank you.
correction. So they got, Health Services received a letter from the state of their additional fundings. For whatever reason, the budget amendment, when it was done at that time, the last one wasn't done for the full amount. So this is just to correct it, to bring it up to the full amount of the revised budget for this grant.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the question for 8C. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, say nay. None. Motion carries. On to 9, referral from Human Services Committee. This is from the Veterans Services, and it's a request for a transfer of funds in the amount of $2,000 from the contingent account to the Veterans Service budget to cover the cost of classified employment advertisements for the Veterans Benefits Counselor position. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Diamond, second by Supervisor Runyon. Discussion. Supervisor Sieber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought that during our committee discussion, we amended that a little bit to add the caveat that the director was to work with the civil service office regarding utilizing that $2,000 to the maximum capabilities, talking with our public information, going through that checklist that isn't there. But I thought we approved it based on that piece.
Well, we're talking finance here, so
Right, but shouldn't the
whatever-
resolution read? Isn't this where committee funds are coming over?
Right, we're just dealing with the transfer of funds right now, not necessarily the whole detailed application of how they're spent.
So I'll see the amended language in the resolution before the full board.
No.
So there's
No.
no record of what we talked about at committee.
I have no idea. I'm sure there is.
Sure.
We have a very good county clerk here.
I have
board
no doubt
clerk,
we have the best,
so
but.
I know,
County
sorry.
clerk's
Clerk of the board, I stand corrected.
Could the clerk of the board,
Administrator Moore?
Thank you. The two standard resolutions we have every month, the one that moves money between, that's already there, and the
Mhm.
one that adds money that's not already there.
Mhm.
This would go on the first one, the one that moves money, and it
Okay.
go as a contingency. But when I wasn't there for the meeting on last Friday, but when the agenda was formulated, it raised a flag with me that 2,000 was a little high. I did ask Denise and Ben as the chairman, if we could explore other opportunities that don't cost any money or cost less money. And to do that with Don Lehman, to do that with civil service. And we also had a conversation about if you don't need the entire 2,000, which I don't expect that they will, we'll come back to this committee and transfer it back into contingency.
Okay,
As a follow-up,
go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just ask as our county administrator, if you could watch that portion of the meeting from the other day, because we discussed exactly that. And is there a way for this to be a not to exceed?
Well, I guess
I think we
2,000
asked-
is a not to exceed in a
Or
way.
up to, whatever.
Okay, any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 9 carries. On to 10, referrals from Occupancy Tax Coordination Committee. Request to reappropriate $15,000 from the OCC tax reserve to budget code tourism special events in order to make the award to the town of Johnsburg authorized by resolution 229 of 2021, intended for website maintenance and marketing, as the selected vendor was unable to complete the work in 2021 due to technical challenges. The second one under this is also, if I'm right. No, it's not. I thought it was another reappropriate. Bring A to the floor. Supervisor Diamond, thank you. Supervisor Runyon, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. 10B, request to appropriate 15,000 from the OCTAX reserve to budget code tourism Warren County projects in order to provide funding to the Planning and Community Development Department to cover the local match for the Outdoor Recreation Economic Strategy Plan. Motion to bring it to the floor. Thank you, Supervisor Diamond. Supervisor Thomas on a second. Discussion. This is to cover the match. Did I see 15,000? Okay, $15,000 and it's coming out of the tax reserve. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Carries. 10B carries. 11, refer from Public Works Committee, DPW, request to establish various roads projects for 2022 in accordance with the budget transfers included under agenda item 1. So motion to bring it to the floor. Thank you, Supervisor Diamond. Second by Supervisor Thomas. We have that list in your packet here, 2, 4, 5 different roads, transferring of funds. And any question on these? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 11 carries. On to 12. So these were coming out of Personnel Administration, Higher Education, just before us here. 12.6 is, am I seeing this right?
Yeah, it's number 6 on the personnel agenda.
Oh, okay, so it was number 6 on the personnel agenda. Referral from the Health Services Committee, Office for the Aging, request to amend table of organization and salary to create and fill new position of Services Assistant, Office for the Aging, number 4, grade 7, base annual salary, 36,414, and delete the position of Typist, grade 3, base annual salary, 30,373, effective March 21, 2022. Bring it to the floor. Thank you, Supervisor Thomas, Supervisor Runyon. Discussion. Is this still, did that pass personnel and we're good to go on this? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, call it good. 12.6, 12.8, which is from the Tourism Committee, Tourism Department, request to amend table, and this came off the personnel before us, just, yeah. Okay. Request to amend the table of organizations and salary schedule to create and fill the new position of Principal Account Clerk per diem, hourly rate $24.7685, and to delete the full-time principal account clerk position effective April 4, 2022. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Thomas, Supervisor Runyon, thank you. Any discussion on 12.8? Supervisor Seaver?
Thank you. I just want to follow up on the discussion from personnel on this. Again, it's not something that I'm likely to support at the full board, but to the supervisor from Glens Falls point, there are departments where I can completely understand why per diem or hourly and those particularly experienced in the fields are coming back to do, especially like public health during a pandemic. But once again, I do think that we're going down a slippery slope that hasn't worked out for us very well in the past in those non-technical areas. But that being said, I understand you're just looking at the dollars and cents here today.
Thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
One opposed? Motion passes. Oh, it failed. Okay. Oh, okay. Yep. It was 3-4-1 against. We do not have the majority vote of 4 for this. So motion fails. It goes back to, it'll go back to personnel. Okay. Any other agenda items? No pending items. Privilege of the floor and public comments. Senior Lehman, anything on?
Hi, Chairman Leggett. No, nothing on YouTube.
Okay, thank you. Hearing none, motion to, what's that?
I have a privilege of the floor item.
Oh, okay. Please, Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I know it's been a long day. I just want to point out here today, if one person had left, you would have lost quorum. And the way that our rules of the board would read is that we'd have to stop. We wouldn't be able to take any action. And that this is an item that I have brought to the attention of the county attorney, given the fact that so many other states do rely on their state law and county state law to govern them in this area. We debated the standing rules, but it's dangerously close in many of our committees that do not have full attendance by all of the committee members. So just as a point of an example for our county attorneys, he starts to look at this issue.
Thank you. I think it also relates to the amount of time it gets through these committee meetings. Supervisor Thomas.
Maybe personnel and finance needs to be separated to separate days.
All those in favor? So,
I'm in favor of that.
yeah. I appreciate everybody sticking it out to the very end here. Motion to adjourn. Supervisor Thomas, Supervisor Diamond, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye.